She looked me dead in the eye and said, "I'm not here to serve you." That was the moment it all broke. After 11 years of marriage, I stopped being the provider and watched her world quietly fall apart. You can usually feel when a marriage starts to slip, but you rarely know the exact moment it happens. For Nathan, it wasn't when his wife, Mary, began ordering takeout 3 nights a week. It wasn't when she started going to bed fully clothed, claiming she was cold. It wasn't even when she stopped saying good morning. It was when she crossed her arms in the middle of the kitchen and said, "I'm not here to serve you." 7 words. That's all it took to shift everything. Nathan and Mary had been married for 11 years. No, not perfect years, but years that felt solid. Both had careers. He worked in logistics management for a mid-sized distribution firm in Denver. She was a freelance interior designer. They didn't have kids. That was Mary's decision, one Nathan had come to accept. Their home was a picture of middle-class success. They hosted dinner parties, had a solid social circle, and, at least to outsiders, seemed tightly knit. Nathan took care of the practical things. He cooked, paid the bills, managed their investments, fixed the car, even handled taxes. Mary had her own contributions, at least in the early years. She handled their social lives, planned events, and would occasionally surprise him with small, thoughtful gestures. A note on the fridge, his favorite dessert, a spontaneous day trip. They had balance. But about 8 months ago, things began to change. At first, Nathan chalked it up to stress. Mary's client list had grown, and with it, the pressure, but her disengagement went beyond exhaustion. She stopped doing anything that wasn't directly for herself. She'd bring home a salad and a smoothie. Nothing for him. She'd cook something photo-worthy for her Instagram, but not offer him a plate. It was deliberate, a subtle shift that turned into a pattern. Then came the Friday night that rewired everything. Nathan got home early. He'd picked up her favorite Thai food, hoping to surprise her. Instead, he found her curled up on the couch with headphones in, eyes on some reality show. She barely glanced up when he walked in. "I got your favorite," he said, holding up the bag. She didn't pause her show. "I already ate." The look she gave him wasn't angry. It wasn't annoyed. It was blank, like she didn't recognize why he was talking to her at all. Something inside him snapped. Not loud, not dramatic. Just broke. He sat at the kitchen table alone, eating in silence. The food had lost its flavor. A few days later, he asked her gently, "Can we talk about what's going on between us?" She didn't even look up from her phone. "What now?" "I don't know. Maybe the fact that we barely talk? That we live like roommates? That I feel like I'm walking on eggshells in my own house?" That got her attention, but not the way he hoped. "Do you ever stop to think," she said sharply, "that maybe I'm tired of performing all the time? Tired of being expected to cook, smile, have sex, decorate, entertain? Like I'm your personal geisha or something?" He blinked. "That's not what I'm not here to serve you." She cut him off. There was no emotion in her voice, just distance. He stood there, hands on the back of a kitchen chair, staring at her. She stared back, daring him to respond, to argue, to fight. He didn't. "Okay," he said, and just like that, the conversation was over. She picked up her phone again, as if it had never happened. But something had shifted in Nathan. Not out of anger, not out of resentment, just a sudden, cold clarity. That night he didn't sleep. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Her words echoed in his mind. Not because they were shocking, he had felt her withdrawal for months, but because she finally said it out loud. She wanted him to know exactly where he stood, and that's when he made a decision. If she was done serving, maybe he was done providing. No confrontation, no big speech, just a quiet reset. The next morning, Nathan didn't bring her coffee, didn't warm up her car, didn't remind her about the hair appointment she had mentioned earlier that week. He just got dressed, ate breakfast, and left for work. No comments, no sighs, just distance. Mary didn't notice. Or if she did, she didn't show it. Saturday morning came. Nathan usually stocked the fridge before she even woke up, preloaded the groceries, handled laundry, swept the house. This time, he did none of it. When she wandered into the kitchen around noon, the sink was still full, and the fridge was nearly empty. She opened a cabinet and stood there confused, but didn't say anything. Sunday came and went the same way. He made dinner for one, ate on the patio, and left her inside scrolling Pinterest. She never asked where her plate was. By Monday morning, the ripple effect had begun. Mary, 9:14 a.m. Why is the gas tank empty? I told you I had that site consult across town. Nathan, 9:15 a.m. Didn't realize I was still responsible for that. At work, he went into their shared banking app and deactivated the automatic payments. The Apple subscription she used for design tools. Canceled. The skincare boxes she loved. Gone. Their shared credit card, which he paid off every month, was cleared of all linked services. He left her personal accounts untouched. The mortgage? That had always been in his name anyway. That evening, she came home and stormed into the kitchen. Did you cancel my subscriptions? He was rinsing a dish. Yep. What the hell, Nathan? He turned off the faucet, dried his hands calmly. Figured since you're not here to serve me anymore, maybe I should stop funding a lifestyle that doesn't include me. She froze. No shouting, no insults, just stunned silence. It wasn't a revenge move. It was balance. She wanted autonomy. Now she had it. The tension grew in quiet increments. Not loud arguments, but silence that made her uncomfortable. Her sister called him a few days later. Is everything okay between you two? Nathan kept his voice neutral. She told me she's not here to serve me. A pause. She didn't mention that. Later that week, Nathan overheard Mary on the phone with a friend, complaining in hushed tones. He's being so passive-aggressive, sulking like a teenager. I honestly thought he was more mature. The irony wasn't lost on him. She'd gone cold for months, shut him out emotionally, refused to engage. And now when he pulled back, he was the problem. That's when it hit him. The narrative had flipped. She wasn't just creating distance. She was setting the stage, shaping a version of events where she was the victim of a moody, withdrawn husband. Never mind the anniversaries she forgot, the meals she stopped making, the intimacy she withheld. Now people were starting to notice something was off, and they assumed it was his fault. Mary posted a vague quote on her Instagram. It's always the quiet ones who disappoint you most. A mutual friend messaged him later that night. Everything okay? People were watching, but they weren't noticing her change. They were noticing his. That's what shook her, because as long as Nathan played the role, steady, supportive, quiet, she could maintain the illusion, the image of the strong, independent woman with a loving husband in the background. But the moment he stopped performing, the mask slipped, and people started asking questions she didn't want to answer. By the third week, the fallout reached further. Her mother, Judith, called him directly. That had never happened before. Normally, she kept her distance, sending polite texts, birthday cards, but never stepping in. Nathan, she began, her tone calm but loaded. I'm calling because I'm concerned. About what? About your marriage. Mary says you've changed, says you've become cold. He waited, then answered quietly. Did she also tell you she announced she's not here to serve me anymore? Silence. Then a laugh, low and dismissive. You men and your egos. It's not ego. It's about mutual effort. Marriage isn't a one-way deal. She says you canceled her cards. That's financial abuse. Nathan nearly laughed. I canceled the shared cards I paid for. She still has her own. She always did. Judith sighed. It's just, people are talking. Clients notice. Her sister's worried. Even the book club women are asking questions. There it was. The concern wasn't about Mary's emotional well-being. It was about appearances. Nathan ended the call politely. Judith, with all due respect, I think your daughter can speak for herself. That same night, a surprising message popped up. Her cousin Elise. Hey, I just want you to know, not everyone's buying her version. I see what's going on. Nathan stared at the message. Elise had always been quiet, observant, never one for drama. If she was reaching out, it meant something real was breaking the surface. He replied, Appreciate you saying that, more than you know. The dominoes had started falling, and Nathan hadn't pushed a single one. By the fourth week, it was no longer just quiet tension between Nathan and Mary. The silence had spread. to friends, family, even clients. Nathan hadn't told anyone what happened. He didn't need to. The change in him said enough, and the absence of his usual support made people start asking questions Mary couldn't easily answer. Then came the dinner party, a birthday gathering for one of Mary's friends. A long table, mutual acquaintances, forced smiles. Mary played her part well, charming, light, seemingly unaffected. To anyone watching, she looked like someone holding everything together. Nathan watched her from across the table. She laughed, engaged, acted like nothing had changed, but others were watching him. He wasn't moody, he wasn't cold. He was simply present, quiet, still. And in that stillness, people noticed the gap between Mary's performance and reality. It was Elise, Mary's cousin, who finally broke the illusion. She raised her glass casually and said, "He's the only one here who hasn't changed." The room went still for a moment. Mary forced a smile. "What's that supposed to mean?" Elise didn't flinch. "Just that you act like he's the one who broke this, but anyone paying attention can see it wasn't him who quit first." Mary tried to laugh it off. "I didn't quit anything. I just stopped bending over backwards." "You stopped participating," Elise replied calmly. "That's not self-care. That's abandonment." No one jumped in. No one changed the subject. A few people shifted in their seats, uncomfortable with the honesty. Mary didn't say anything. She stood up and walked out of the room without another word. That was the turning point. For weeks, she had shaped the story. Nathan was being distant, sulking, refusing to engage. But when someone else, someone close to her, said out loud what Nathan never did, the story collapsed. After dinner, Nathan left early. Elise caught up to him in the parking lot. "She's probably never going to forgive me," she said. "You didn't have to say that," he replied. "Maybe not. But I couldn't keep watching her weaponize your silence, acting like your patience meant you didn't care." That hit hard, because his silence hadn't come from apathy. It came from exhaustion. He had carried the weight quietly, hoping she'd come back around, hoping she'd notice. She never did, but others had. That weekend, Mary made one last attempt to reclaim control of the story. She posted a filtered photo with a caption that read, "Let go of what doesn't nourish your soul." One of her old friends commented, "Didn't he buy the groceries, cook the meals, and pay the rent?" The comment was gone 2 hours later. No response. The unraveling was slow but steady. Friends stopped calling. A colleague pulled out of a project, citing schedule conflicts. People weren't angry, just distant. Mary's curated life had developed visible cracks, and for the first time, she couldn't fix them with charm. Then came the most unexpected visitor. Judith, her mother, showed up at Nathan's house. No call, no warning. She looked different, less polished, more tired. She stood on the front step as Nathan trimmed hedges in the yard. "I want to apologize," she said. He paused. "For what?" "For taking her side without asking what yours was, for interfering, for not seeing clearly." Nathan didn't respond right away. He didn't know what to say. "She asked to stay with me," Judith continued. "Said she needed space. I told her no." That got his attention. She was furious. "But I told her, what she needs isn't space, it's accountability, and I won't enable her until she finds it." Then she turned and walked away. No speech, no redemption arc, just a mother quietly owning her part in how things got this far. That night, Mary finally spoke. She stood in the doorway of Nathan's office. "I didn't expect this," she said. "Any of it." He looked at her. "What didn't you expect?" "That people would turn on me, that they'd side with you." He shook his head. "They didn't turn on you. You exposed yourself and they watched." She looked down. I felt like I was losing myself in this marriage." "You didn't lose yourself," he said. "You left. You stopped showing up. I thought if I gave less, you'd notice. I hoped you'd fight for us." She was quiet for a long moment. "I thought if I pulled back, maybe you'd try harder." "I stopped trying because I was already doing everything." She nodded but said nothing else. That was when Nathan realized something important. He didn't want revenge. He didn't want her to feel what he had felt. He just wanted to stop living a life where love was measured by who gave more, Who carried the most weight? Who kept the performance alive? He didn't need an apology. He needed to be done. The next morning, Mary moved into the guest room. No announcement, no dramatic exit, just a quiet shift. She passed Nathan in the hallway with a bundle of clothes and a charger in her hand, said nothing, and closed the door behind her. He didn't ask why. He already knew. They didn't speak for 3 days. Not out of anger, just absence. The kind of silence that replaces conversation when there's nothing left to say. On the fourth day, she stood in the doorway of his office again. "I've been thinking," she said. He didn't stop working, but he nodded. "I don't think I can fix this. I thought space would help, but it hasn't. The truth is, I don't think I know how to be a wife." Nathan looked up. "You don't know how to be a partner," he said. "Not just a wife. You knew how to play the part, when it was convenient, but when it got hard, when it required consistency, you pulled away." She crossed her arms, but not defensively. She was holding herself together. "I didn't want to be the bad guy." "You didn't need to be the bad guy," he replied. "You just needed to be honest." A long pause followed. "So where does that leave us?" she asked. The answer was simple now. "It leaves us done." She didn't argue. She didn't plead. She just stood there processing it. Nathan didn't offer comfort. That was over. She moved out a week later. Not far, just across town to a rented loft. She told people they were taking time to focus on themselves. Nathan didn't correct it. He didn't need to. People already knew. Her cousin, her mother, her friends. Even the ones who used to admire her from afar had grown quiet when speaking to Nathan. No one pitied him. No one gloated. They just saw him clearly for the first time. That was all he ever wanted. Not validation, not applause, just clarity. He began reclaiming the house one task at a time, not to erase her, but to reset his space. He got rid of the objects she insisted on keeping that never felt like him. Repainted a wall she once made a statement piece. It wasn't about control, it was about making the space feel real again. At the signing, Mary looked thinner, maybe more polished, maybe more fragile. It was hard to tell. "Do you hate me?" she asked. "No," Nathan said. "I learned from you." She blinked. "That's not the same as hating." "What did you learn?" she asked. "That loving someone doesn't mean dying in the process, especially not when they've already left." She looked down. "I really did want to be the kind of woman who could hold everything together. Marriage, career, love, independence." "You just didn't want to hold it with someone," Nathan said. That was the difference. She nodded once and walked away. He didn't feel triumphant. There was no sense of winning, just relief. Not from the end of a relationship, but from the weight of pretending it still worked. Nathan never raised his voice, never retaliated. He just stopped. And when he did, the truth surfaced, quietly, steadily. People saw what he had carried for years, not because he told them, but because the moment he let go, the whole image crumbled. Mary had once said she wasn't here to serve. That was fine. He had never wanted a servant. He wanted a partner. And when she stopped being one, he stopped being her provider. In the weeks following the divorce, Nathan didn't dwell on the past. He didn't stalk her social media or ask around about what she was doing. The chapter had closed, not with bitterness, but with clarity. He focused on his life, reconnected with friends he hadn't seen in months, took weekend hikes, caught up on books he'd left untouched. Slowly, his house became his again, not just in ownership, but in atmosphere. One morning, while buying coffee at his usual spot, he ran into one of Mary's former clients. She greeted him warmly, asked how he was doing. "You always seemed like the glue in that marriage," she said quietly before walking away. Nathan didn't reply, but the words stayed with him. He had been the glue. And eventually, even glue dries up when it holds too much alone. Mary, meanwhile, continued her curated life. She posted filtered photos, inspirational captions about healing and self-discovery. But the tone had shifted. Fewer likes, fewer comments, fewer people engaging. Her narrative wasn't sticking like it used to. Some of their old friends drifted toward Nathan, not to take sides, but because his quiet integrity spoke louder than her polished explanations. Then one afternoon, he got a letter, a real one, not an email, not a text. It was from Elise. She didn't say much, just that she hoped he was doing well, that she was proud of how he handled everything, and that she believed he deserved a partner who saw him. Nathan kept the letter, not because he needed validation, but because it reminded him of the power of restraint, that sometimes the most effective response is no response at all. Judith, Mary's mother, reached out again, this time to say she was in therapy. She was starting to unpack the way she raised her daughters, the expectations she set, the way she equated image with value. "I never realized how blind I was to what you were giving," she wrote, "and I'm sorry." Nathan didn't expect that, but he accepted it. He wasn't waiting for apologies anymore, but when they came, he received them without resentment. He had let go of needing anyone to validate his pain. Mary and Nathan saw each other once more, 6 months later, at a mutual friend's baby shower. They spoke briefly, cordial, restrained. She asked if he was seeing anyone. "No," he said simply. "I hope you meet someone who matches what you gave," she said. He nodded. "I hope you do too." There was no tension, no unspoken anger, just two people who had outgrown each other, one who had stopped participating and one who finally stopped compensating. As the event went on, Mary kept her distance. Nathan didn't mind. He was there to celebrate someone else's joy, not relive his past. That night he reflected on the journey, not just the marriage, but the slow, steady unraveling, and the even slower return to self. He realized he wasn't angry with Mary anymore. Disappointed, yes, but not angry. She had told him she wasn't there to serve him. He had never wanted that anyway. What he wanted was reciprocity, mutual effort, quiet, consistent partnership. And when that ended, he didn't retaliate. He didn't make her the villain. He simply stepped back and let the truth reveal itself, because the truth always does. In the end, it wasn't Nathan who walked away first. He was just the one who walked away last, and thank God he did.